Walking into Huntington Beach Fitness Center, I felt a surge of determination coursing through my veins. As a 32-year-old mechanical engineer, I'd always been more comfortable with machines than dumbbells. But today marked the beginning of my journey to a healthier me. The gym buzzed with energy, the clanking of weights and whir of treadmills, creating a symphony of self-improvement. I made my way to the free weight section, feeling slightly overwhelmed by the array of equipment. As I stood there, trying to look like I knew what I was doing, I caught sight of her. She was a vision in purple workout gear, her golden hair pulled back in a messy ponytail that somehow looked effortlessly chic, but it was her eyes that captivated me. Piercing green orbs that seemed to sparkle even under the harsh gym lighting. I couldn't help but watch as she gracefully moved through her routine, her form perfect as she lifted weights with practiced ease. She exuded confidence, and I found myself both intimidated and inexplicably drawn to her. Realizing I was staring, I quickly averted my gaze and grabbed a set of dumbbells, determined to focus on my own workout. But as I awkwardly attempted my first set of bicep curls, I felt those green eyes on me. Glancing up, I caught her watching me with an amused smile. Embarrassment flooded through me, but before I could slink away, she approached. "Hey there," she said, her voice warm and inviting. "I couldn't help but notice you seem a bit lost." "First time?" I nodded, feeling a blush creep up my neck. "Is it that obvious?" She laughed, a melodious sound that sent a shiver down my spine. "We all start somewhere. I'm Julie, by the way." "Allison," I managed to reply, surprised by how breathless I suddenly felt. "Well, Allison, would you like some pointers?" I remember how overwhelming it can be when you're just starting out. I found myself nodding eagerly, grateful for her kindness, and trying desperately to ignore the way my heart fluttered when she smiled. Julie spent the next hour guiding me through various exercises, her gentle touches as she corrected my form sending sparks through my body. As we worked out side by side, conversation flowed easily between us. I learned she was a 28-year-old animal behaviorist, passionate about her work at the local wildlife sanctuary. Her eyes lit up as she talked about the animals in her care, and I found myself hanging on her every word. Before I knew it, our workout session was coming to an end. As we cooled down, Julie turned to me with a grin. "You did great today, Allison. Keep it up, and you'll be a pro in no time." Emboldened by our easy rapport, I blurted out, "Maybe we could work out together again sometime." I immediately regretted my forwardness, but Julie's smile only widened. "I'd like that," she replied, pulling out her phone. "Here, let's exchange numbers." As we swapped contact information, our fingers brushed, and I felt a jolt of electricity run through me. Julie's eyes met mine, and for a moment, the busy gym around us seemed to fade away. There was something in her gaze, a hint of curiosity, maybe even attraction, that made my pulse race. Walking out of the gym that day, I felt lighter than I had in years, not just from the endorphins of a good workout, but from the unexpected connection I'd made. As I drove home, I couldn't stop thinking about Julie's laugh, her kindness, and those mesmerizing green eyes. Little did I know, this chance encounter at the gym was about to change my life in ways I never could have imagined. Over the next few weeks, Julie and I fell into a comfortable routine of meeting at the gym. Each session left me feeling stronger, not just physically but emotionally too. There was something about her presence that made me feel invincible, like I could conquer any challenge life threw my way. One particularly grueling leg day, I found myself struggling with a set of squats. Julie, ever attentive, noticed my wobbling form and came to my rescue. "Here," she said softly, her hands gently grasping my hips. "Keep your core tight and imagine you're sitting back into a chair." Her touch sent a shiver through me, and I hoped she'd attribute my sudden flush to exertion, rather than the effect she had on me. As I completed the set under her watchful eye, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride at her approving nod. After our workout, we decided to treat ourselves to smoothies at the gym's juice bar. As we sat side by side on the high stools, our shoulders occasionally brushing, Julie turned to me with a mischievous glint in her eye. "So, Allison, any exciting engineering projects you're working on?" building any killer robots I should know about. I laughed, nearly choking on my berry blast smoothie. Nothing quite so exciting, I'm afraid, unless you count optimizing the efficiency of HVAC systems as thrilling. Hey, in this California heat, a well-functioning AC is my hero, she quipped, playfully nudging my arm. As our laughter subsided, a comfortable silence fell between us. I found myself studying Julie's profile, the graceful curve of her neck, the way her blonde hair caught the light, the subtle movements of her throat as she sipped her drink. She must have sensed my gaze because she turned, catching my eye with a soft smile that made my heart skip a beat. You know, Julie said, her voice taking on a more serious tone. I'm really glad I met you, Allison. These workouts have become the highlight of my week. I felt a warmth spread through my chest at her words. Me too, I replied, surprised by the huskiness in my voice. I never thought I'd actually look forward to getting my butt kicked at the gym. Julie laughed, the sound music to my ears. As she reached for her smoothie, her hand brushed against mine on the counter. Instead of pulling away, she let it linger, her pinky just barely touching mine. The contact was electrifying, and I found myself holding my breath, afraid to move and break this moment. We stayed like that, trading stories and laughter, our hands maintaining that whisper of contact. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks visible through the gym's large windows, I realized we'd been talking for hours. Oh wow, I can't believe how late it's gotten, I said, reluctantly sliding off the stool. Julie's eyes widened in surprise as she checked her watch. Time flies when you're in good company, she said with a wink that made my knees weak. As we walked to the parking lot, a cool evening breeze rustled through the palm trees. Julie turned to me, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear in a gesture I was beginning to recognize as a nervous habit. Hey, I was thinking, there's this great hiking trail in the hills I've been meaning to check out. Would you maybe want to join me this weekend? If you're free, of course. My heart soared at the invitation. I'd love to, I replied, trying to keep the excitement from making my voice quaver. Text me the details? It's a date, Julie said, then quickly added, I mean, not a date, just you know what I mean. She laughed, a slight blush coloring her cheeks. As I watched her drive away, I couldn't help but wonder if maybe, just maybe, she was feeling this inexplicable pull between us two. The prospect of spending time with Julie outside the gym both thrilled and terrified me. I'd never felt this way about a woman before, and the intensity of my emotions was both exhilarating and confusing. That night, as I lay in bed, I replayed every moment of our interaction. The way her eyes crinkled when she laughed, the gentle pressure of her hand guiding my form, the electricity of our touch at the juice bar. I fell asleep with a smile on my face, dreaming of sun-dappled hiking trails and the promise of Julie's company. Little did I know, our upcoming hike would be more than just a friendly outing. It would be the beginning of a journey that would challenge everything I thought I knew about myself, and open my heart to possibilities I'd never dared to imagine. The morning of our hike dawned clear and bright, a perfect Southern California day. As I pulled into the trailhead parking lot, my stomach was a knot of nervous excitement. Julie was already there, leaning against her car, looking effortlessly beautiful in hiking shorts and a fitted tank top that highlighted her toned arms. Ready for an adventure? She called out as I approached, her green eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. We set off on the trail, the scent of sage and chaparral filling the air. As we climbed, our conversation flowed easily, punctuated by comfortable silences where we simply enjoyed the beauty of our surroundings. I found myself sneaking glances at Julie, admiring the way the sunlight caught her golden hair, the graceful way she moved over the uneven terrain. About halfway up the trail, we paused to catch our breath and hydrate. Julie pulled out a small pair of binoculars from her backpack. Look, she whispered, pointing to a nearby tree. A California towhee. She handed me the binoculars, and as I raised them to my eyes, I felt her step closer, her body heat radiating against my side. Her hand gently guided mine, adjusting the focus. See it? She murmured, her breath warm against my ear. I nodded, not trusting my voice. The bird was beautiful, but all I could focus on was Julie's proximity, the citrusy scent of her shampoo, the soft pressure of her hand on mine. As we continued our hike, I found myself opening up to Julie in a way I hadn't with anyone in a long time. I told her about my childhood dreams of becoming an astronaut, my struggle to find my place in the male-dominated world of engineering, and my recent questioning of the path I'd chosen. Julie listened attentively, offering words of encouragement and understanding. When she spoke about her own journey, the challenges she'd faced as a woman in science, her passion for animal conservation, I felt a deep connection forming between us, a sense of kinship that went beyond mere physical attraction. We reached the summit just as the sun was beginning to dip towards the horizon. The view was breathtaking, the sprawling city below us, the ocean stretching out to the horizon, painted in hues of gold and pink by the setting sun. "It's beautiful," I breathed, awestruck by the sight. "Yeah, it is," Julie replied softly. When I turned to look at her, I found her gaze fixed not on the view, but on me. The intensity in her eyes made my heart race. For a moment we stood there, the air between us charged with unspoken emotions. Julie took a step closer, her hand reaching out to tuck a stray strand of hair behind my ear. Her touch lingered on my cheek, and I found myself leaning into it, my eyes closing involuntarily. "Allison," she whispered, her voice husky. I opened my eyes to find her face inches from mine, her gaze flicking between my eyes and my lips. The moment was shattered by the shrill ring of my phone. We jumped apart, the spell broken. It was work, a problem with one of my projects that needed immediate attention. As we made our way back down the trail, a new tension hung in the air between us. What would have happened if we hadn't been interrupted? The question burned in my mind, along with a growing certainty about my feelings for Julie. Back at the parking lot we lingered by our cars, neither of us quite ready to say goodbye. "This was really nice," Julie said, a shy smile playing on her lips. "It was," I agreed, gathering my courage. "Maybe we could do it again sometime. Dinner, perhaps?" Julie's smile widened. "I'd love that." As I drove home, my mind was a whirlwind of emotions. The almost kiss on the mountaintop replayed in my thoughts, along with every touch, every laugh we'd shared. I realized with startling clarity that what I felt for Julie was more than friendship, more than a crush. I was falling for her, hard and fast. But with that realization came a wave of anxiety. I'd never been with a woman before, never even considered the possibility. What did this mean for my identity, my future? And more importantly, what if Julie didn't feel the same way? That night, as I lay in bed, the memory of Julie's touch on my cheek still lingering, I made a decision. Life was too short for what-ifs and maybes. At our next meeting, I would take the leap and tell Julie how I felt. Consequences be damned. Little did I know, fate had other plans. Our next encounter would bring not just a confession of feelings, but a moment that would change the course of our relationship forever. The week following our hike crawled by at an agonizingly slow pace. Each day, I found myself checking my phone obsessively, hoping for a message from Julie. When she finally texted to invite me to an art gallery opening that weekend, I nearly dropped my phone in excitement. Saturday evening found me standing in front of my closet, agonizing over what to wear. I finally settled on a sleek black dress that hugged my curves in all the right places, hoping it struck the right balance between sophisticated and alluring. As I walked into the gallery, my eyes immediately sought out Julie. She stood near a vibrant abstract painting, looking breathtaking in a deep blue jumpsuit that accentuated her lithe figure. When our eyes met, her face lit up with a smile that made my heart skip a beat. "You look amazing," she said as I approached, her gaze appreciatively taking in my outfit. "So do you," I replied, feeling a blush creep up my neck under her intense gaze. We moved through the gallery, our arms linked as we admired the artwork. Julie's presence beside me was intoxicating, the subtle scent of her perfume and the warmth of her body against mine, making it hard to concentrate on the paintings. As we paused in front of a particularly striking piece, Julie leaned in close, her breath warm against my ear as she whispered, "What do you think this one represents?" I turned my head slightly, suddenly aware of how close our faces were. "I'm not sure," I murmured, my eyes drawn to her lips, "but it makes me feel something." Julie's eyes met mine, and I saw a flicker of something intense in their green depths. "Yeah," she breathed, "me too." The moment was charged with unspoken tension, and I found myself leaning in, almost unconsciously. Julie's hand came up to cup my cheek, her thumb gently tracing my jawline. My heart was pounding so loudly I was sure she must hear it. Just as our lips were about to meet, a loud crash from across the room startled us apart. A waiter had dropped a tray of champagne glasses, the sound shattering the intimate bubble we'd been in. Julie laughed nervously, stepping back slightly. "Maybe we should get some air," she suggested, her cheeks flushed. I nodded, not trusting my voice, and followed her out onto a small balcony overlooking the city. The cool night air was a welcome relief against my heated skin. We stood in silence for a moment, both of us gathering our thoughts. Finally, I turned to Julie, determined to say what I'd been feeling. "Julie, I began, but she spoke at the same time. "Allison, there's something I need to tell you." We both laughed, the tension easing slightly. "You go first," I offered. Julie took a deep breath, her eyes meeting mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. "Allison, I can't stop thinking about you, these past few weeks getting to know you. I've never felt this way about anyone before. And I know this might be new for you, it's new for me too, but I think I'm falling for you." Her words hung in the air between us, and for a moment, I was speechless. Joy, relief, and a touch of fear welled up inside me. "Julie," I finally managed, my voice thick with emotion, "I feel the same way. I've been trying to find the courage to tell you." Before I could finish, Julie closed the distance between us. Her hand cupped the back of my neck, pulling me towards her as our lips finally met in a kiss that sent sparks through my entire body. Her lips were soft, tasting faintly of the champagne we'd sipped earlier. I melted into her embrace, my hands finding their way to her waist as the kiss deepened. It felt like coming home. Like every moment in my life had been leading to this. When we finally parted, both slightly breathless, Julie rested her forehead against mine. "Wow," she whispered, a smile playing on her lips. "Yeah," I agreed, unable to stop the grin spreading across my face. "Wow indeed." We spent the rest of the evening in a blissful haze, stealing kisses in quiet corners of the gallery, and exchanging heated glances across the room. As the night drew to a close, neither of us wanted it to end. "Come back to my place?" Julie asked tentatively as we stood by our cars. "Just to talk," she added quickly. "I'm not ready to say goodnight yet." I nodded, my heart racing with anticipation. "I'd like that." As I followed Julie's car through the streets of Huntington Beach, my mind was awash with emotions, excitement, joy, a touch of nervousness about what this new chapter might bring. But underlying it all was a sense of rightness, of finally being true to myself. Little did I know, as I pulled into Julie's driveway, that our newfound happiness was about to be tested in ways we couldn't have imagined. The universe, it seemed, had one more surprise in store for us, one that would challenge everything we thought we knew about luck, love, and the unpredictable nature of life. The weeks following that magical night at the art gallery were a whirlwind of stolen kisses, late-night conversations, and a happiness I'd never known before. Julie and I fell into a comfortable rhythm, our lives intertwining in ways that felt both exhilarating and natural. One lazy Sunday morning, as we lounged on my couch, legs tangled together while we sipped coffee and read the paper, Julie nudged me with her foot. "Hey, did you get a lottery ticket for tonight's draw? The jackpot's up to $200 million. I laughed, shaking my head. "You know I don't believe in that stuff. It's just a tax on people who can't do math." Julie rolled her eyes good-naturedly. "Come on, where's your sense of adventure? It's fun to dream a little." To humor her, I agreed to buy a ticket. We made a game of choosing the numbers, each picking 3 based on meaningful dates in our lives. As I paid for the ticket at the corner store, I couldn't help but feel a little silly. but the smile on Julie's face when I returned home made it worth it. That evening we curled up on the couch to watch the draw, more as an excuse to cuddle than out of any real expectation. As the numbers started rolling, Julie sat up straight, her eyes widening. "Allison," she whispered, her voice trembling. Those are our numbers." I stared at the screen in disbelief as the final ball dropped. 6 for 6. We had won. The next few days passed in a blur of lawyers, financial advisors, and mind-numbing paperwork. We decided to take the lump sum payout, which, after taxes, left us with a staggering $1 million. It was more money than I could even comprehend. At first, the win seemed like a dream come true. We talked about all the good we could do, donating to animal conservation efforts Julie was passionate about, setting up scholarships for women in STEM fields, helping our families. We even entertained fantasies of quitting our jobs and traveling the world together. But as the reality of our newfound wealth settled in, unexpected tensions began to surface. Julie wanted to immediately make some big lifestyle changes, buy a mansion in the hills, get a fancy sports car. I, on the other hand, felt overwhelmed and wanted to take things slow, maybe invest most of it for the future. "Come on, Allison," Julie said one night, frustration evident in her voice. "We have the chance to live like queens. Why are you being so cautious?" "Because this kind of money changes things," I replied, trying to keep my tone even. "I don't want it to change us." Our disagreements over the money started small but grew more frequent. I found myself becoming paranoid, wondering if people, even Julie, were only interested in me for my newfound wealth. The carefree happiness we'd enjoyed in the early days of our relationship felt like it was slipping away. One evening, after a particularly heated argument about whether to buy a yacht, Julie's idea, or set up a charitable foundation, my preference, I stormed out of Julie's apartment, needing some air to clear my head. As I walked along the beach, the sound of waves crashing against the shore usually so soothing, I felt a deep sense of loss. How had something that should have been wonderful turned into such a source of conflict? My phone buzzed with a text from Julie. "I'm sorry, can we talk?" I stared at the message, tears welling in my eyes. I loved Julie more than I'd ever loved anyone, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this money was tearing us apart. Was our relationship strong enough to weather this unexpected storm? As I stood there, the ocean breeze cooling my tear-stained cheeks, I realized I had a decision to make. I could let this twist of fate drive a wedge between us, or I could fight for the love we'd found. The money didn't matter, Julie did. With a deep breath, I typed out a reply. "I'm on my way back. I love you." Walking back to Julie's apartment, I steeled myself for what I knew would be a difficult conversation. We needed to find a way to navigate this new reality together, to remember what was truly important. As I raised my hand to knock on Julie's door, I felt a mix of trepidation and determination. Whatever happened next, I knew one thing for certain: no amount of money could ever compare to the wealth of love I'd found with Julie. Now, I just had to make her see that too. The door opened, revealing Julie's tear-stained face. Without a word, we fell into each other's arms, both of us realizing in that moment that we had something far more precious than any lottery jackpot. As we held each other tight, I knew we had a long road ahead of us, but I was ready to face whatever challenges came our way, as long as we faced them together. The weeks following our emotional reconciliation were a delicate dance of compromise and communication. Julie and I spent long nights talking through our fears, hopes, and dreams, trying to find a middle ground that honored both our perspectives on our newfound wealth. We agreed to make some modest upgrades to our lifestyles, moving into a comfortable but not ostentatious home in a quiet Huntington Beach neighborhood, and setting aside funds for travel and personal interests. But the bulk of the money went into investments and charitable foundations we both felt passionate about. Despite our best efforts, though, the stress of managing such a large sum began to take its toll. I found myself constantly second-guessing every financial decision, paranoid about making a mistake that could jeopardize our future. Julie, on the other hand, seemed to grow increasingly restless, as if the money had awakened a desire for excitement and luxury she'd never known she had. One evening as we sat on our new patio overlooking the Pacific, Julie turned to me with a look of determination in her eyes. "Allison, I've been thinking, what if we took a break from all this? Just pack our bags and travel for a while, see the world without any plans or responsibilities?" The idea both thrilled and terrified me. "But what about our jobs, our commitments here?" Julie's eyes sparkled with excitement. "That's the beauty of it. We don't have to worry about that anymore. We're financially set for life. Why not take advantage of that freedom?" I felt a knot form in my stomach. The thought of leaving behind the stability of my career, the life we'd built here, was daunting. "I don't know, Julie. It seems so reckless." Her face fell, and I immediately regretted my words. "Is that what you think of me, that I'm being reckless?" "No, that's not what I meant," I backpedaled. But the damage was done. Julie stood up abruptly. "Maybe this is the problem, Allison. You're so afraid of taking risks that you can't see the amazing opportunities right in front of us." Her words stung, but a part of me knew she wasn't entirely wrong. I'd always been the cautious one, the planner, but was I letting that caution hold us back? The argument that followed was one of our worst. Harsh words were exchanged, old frustrations bubbling to the surface. In the heat of the moment, Julie grabbed her keys and stormed out, leaving me alone in our big empty house. As the days passed with minimal communication between us, I found myself spiraling into a pit of doubt and fear. Had the money truly changed us so fundamentally that we couldn't find our way back to each other? I threw myself into work, hoping to find solace in the familiar routines of my job. But even there, things felt different. My colleagues treated me with a newfound deference that made me uncomfortable, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I no longer belonged in this world. One particularly difficult day, I found myself driving aimlessly along the coast, trying to clear my head. Without realizing it, I ended up at the trailhead where Julie and I had gone on our first hike together. On impulse, I decided to climb the trail, hoping the physical exertion would help quiet my tumultuous thoughts. As I reached the summit, the sun was setting over the ocean, painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink, just like that day with Julie. The memory of our almost kiss, the excitement and nervousness we'd felt, hit me like a physical blow. Standing there, overlooking the vast expanse of the Pacific, I had a moment of clarity. The money hadn't changed who we were at our core. Julie was still the vibrant, adventurous woman I'd fallen in love with, and I was still the cautious, thoughtful person I'd always been. Our strengths balanced each other out. If only we could find a way to embrace that balance instead of fighting against it. With shaking hands, I pulled out my phone and dialed Julie's number. When she answered, her voice guarded, I took a deep breath. "Julie, I'm at our spot on the trail. Can you meet me here? We need to talk." The wait for her arrival felt like an eternity. As I saw her figure approaching in the fading light, my heart raced with a mixture of fear and hope. This was it, our moment of truth. Either we'd find a way to bridge the gap between us, or we'd have to accept that perhaps love wasn't enough to overcome the challenges we faced. As Julie reached me, her face a mixture of apprehension and longing, I knew that whatever happened next would define not just our relationship, but the course of our lives. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting us in the soft glow of twilight, as we prepared to face our future, together or apart. As Julie reached the summit, her silhouette backlit by the fading sunset, my breath caught in my throat. Even after everything we'd been through, she still had the power to take my breath away. "Hi," she said softly, her green eyes searching my face. "Hi," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you for coming." We stood in silence for a moment, the weight of unspoken words hanging heavy between us. Finally, I took a deep breath and spoke. "Julie, I'm sorry. I've been so caught up in my fears and insecurities that I lost sight of what's truly important, us." Her eyes softened, and I saw a glimmer of hope. Encouraged, I continued, "I love you, Julie, more than I've ever loved anyone, and I don't want to lose you over something as trivial as money." Julie stepped closer, her hand reaching out to grasp mine. "Oh, Allison, I'm sorry too. I got carried away with the possibilities and forgot to consider your feelings. I never meant to make you feel like you weren't enough. As we stood there, hand in hand, the last rays of sunlight dipping below the horizon, I felt a shift in the air between us. The tension that had been building over the past weeks began to dissolve, replaced by the warmth of understanding and forgiveness. I've been thinking, I said, my thumb tracing circles on the back of her hand. Maybe we've been looking at this all wrong. Instead of seeing the money as a source of conflict, what if we saw it as an opportunity to build something together? Julie's eyes lit up with interest. What do you mean? Well, you've always been passionate about animal conservation, and I've wanted to make a difference in promoting women in STEM fields. What if we combined those passions? We could start a foundation that focuses on both. Maybe something that encourages girls to pursue careers in wildlife biology or environmental engineering. As I spoke, I could see the excitement building in Julie's expression. She squeezed my hand tighter. Allison, that's brilliant. We could make a real difference. The conversation flowed freely then, our minds racing with possibilities. We talked about setting up scholarships, funding research projects, organizing hands-on workshops for young girls. With each idea, I felt the connection between us strengthening, our individual strengths coming together to create something beautiful. As night fell, wrapping us in a blanket of stars, Julie pulled me close. I love you, Allison, she murmured, her forehead resting against mine. Thank you for not giving up on us. I tilted my head, capturing her lips in a soft, tender kiss. It felt like coming home, like all the pieces of my world falling back into place. When we finally parted, breathless and gidning, Julie's eyes sparkled with mischief. You know, she said, her voice low and sultry, we never did properly celebrate our win. A shiver of anticipation ran down my spine. What did you have in mind? Without a word, Julie took my hand and led me down the trail to where our cars were parked. The drive back to our house was charged with an electric tension, stolen glances and lingering touches promising what was to come. As soon as we were through the front door, Julie pressed me against it, her lips crashing into mine with a passion that made my knees weak. I tangled my fingers in her golden hair, pulling her closer as our kisses grew more heated. We stumbled through the house, leaving a trail of discarded clothing in our wake. By the time we reached the bedroom, we were both down to our underwear. Julie paused, her eyes roaming over my body with undisguised desire. You're beautiful, she breathed, her fingers tracing the curve of my hip. I blushed under her intense gaze, suddenly feeling shy despite our intimacy. So are you, I whispered back, marveling at the way the moonlight streaming through the window illuminated her skin. Julie's hands moved to the clasp of my bra, her eyes seeking permission. I nodded, my breath catching as she slowly removed the garment, revealing my bare chest to her appreciative gaze. What followed was a night of passionate exploration, of rediscovering each other's bodies and hearts. We made love with a tenderness that brought tears to my eyes. Each touch a silent promise of devotion and commitment. As we lay tangled together in the aftermath, our bodies cooling in the night air, I felt a profound sense of peace settle over me. The challenges we'd faced had only made our bond stronger, our love deeper. Julie propped herself up on an elbow, her fingers tracing lazy patterns on my skin. So, she said with a soft smile, partners in love and philanthropy? I pulled her down for a gentle kiss. Partners in everything, I replied. As we drifted off to sleep, wrapped in each other's arms, I knew that whatever the future held, we'd face it together. The money that had once threatened to tear us apart had become the foundation for a shared dream, a dream we'd build side by side. The California sun beat down on the pristine sands of Huntington Beach as Julie and I walked hand in hand along the shoreline. It had been a year since our fateful lottery win, and what a year it had been. The initial turbulence had given way to a period of growth, both individually and as a couple, that I never could have anticipated. Our foundation, which we'd named WildStem, was thriving beyond our wildest dreams. We'd already funded several scholarships for young women pursuing degrees in environmental science and conservation-focused engineering. The look of joy and determination on the faces of our first group of scholarship recipients at the award ceremony was something I'd never forget. As we strolled along the beach, I couldn't help but marvel at how far we'd come. Julie, ever the adventurer, had convinced me to take a 3-month sabbatical to travel the world, visiting some of the conservation projects we were funding. Those months of exploration had opened my eyes to new possibilities and pushed me out of my comfort zone in ways I never thought possible. "Penny, for your thoughts?" Julie's voice broke through my reverie, her green eyes twinkling with curiosity. I smiled, squeezing her hand. "Just thinking about how much has changed. How much we've changed." Julie nodded, a thoughtful expression on her face. "For the better, I hope?" "Definitely for the better," I assured her, pulling her close for a quick kiss. As we continued our walk, we chatted about our upcoming plans. We were in the process of organizing a summer camp for girls interested in wildlife biology and environmental engineering. The idea of inspiring the next generation of female scientists filled me with a sense of purpose I'd never experienced in my old job. "Oh, before I forget," Julie said, her tone casual but with an undercurrent of excitement. "I got a call from that real estate agent. The beachfront property we looked at last week? It's ours if we want it." I felt a flutter of nervousness in my stomach. We'd been talking about buying a place together, something that truly felt like ours rather than just an upgrade from our old lives. It was a big step, but one I realized I was ready for. "Let's do it," I said, surprised by the confidence in my voice. Julie's face lit up with joy, and she pulled me into a tight embrace. As we stood there, the waves lapping at our feet, I felt a sense of rightness wash over me. This was where I belonged, with Julie, building a life and a legacy together. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink, we made our way to a small beachside cafe. It was the same place where we'd had our first real date, back when we were just two women fumbling through the early stages of attraction. Over glasses of wine, we toasted to our past, present, and future. The conversation flowed easily, punctuated by laughter and tender moments of shared understanding. As I watched Julie talk animatedly about her latest ideas for the foundation, her eyes sparkling with passion, I felt a surge of love so strong it almost overwhelmed me. "Julie," I said, reaching across the table to take her hand, "I have something I want to ask you." She looked at me curiously, a small smile playing on her lips. "What is it, Allison?" My heart pounding, I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Julie's eyes widened as she realized what was happening. "Julie," I began, my voice trembling slightly with emotion, "this past year has been the most challenging, exciting, and rewarding of my life, and it's all because of you. You push me to be better, to dream bigger, to live life to its fullest. I can't imagine facing the future with anyone else by my side." I opened the box, revealing a simple yet elegant diamond ring. "Will you marry me?" Time seemed to stand still as I waited for her answer. Julie's eyes filled with tears, a radiant smile spreading across her face. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times yes." As I slipped the ring onto her finger, the small cafe erupted in applause. We hadn't even noticed the other patrons watching our moment unfold, but their joy only added to the magic of the moment. We left the cafe in a daze of happiness, walking along the moonlit beach towards our future home. As we stood on the sand, looking out at the vast expanse of the Pacific, I felt a sense of infinite possibility. "What do you think the future holds for us?" Julie asked, her head resting on my shoulder. I smiled, pulling her closer. "I don't know exactly," I admitted, "but I know it'll be an adventure. And there's no one I'd rather adventure with than you." As we sealed that promise with a kiss, the waves crashing gently on the shore behind us, I knew that this was just the beginning. Whatever challenges or joys lay ahead, we would face them together. Our love a constant anchor in the ever-changing tides of life. The story of Allison and Julie, of two women who found love and purpose in the most unexpected of circumstances, was far from over. In fact, it felt like it was just beginning.